As the movie begins, we see a high school student named Chima attending a party with his friends Hugo and Ruben. However, their attempts to interact with the girls at the party turned out to be a complete failure. After leaving the party, Hugo and Ruben relentlessly tease Chima for being the only one among them who hasn't started dating or lost his virginity. They mockingly suggest that his most intimate encounter thus far has been caressing himself. In response, Chima makes a vow that before his senior year comes to an end, he'll find a partner and finally lose his virginity. Next day, Chima wakes up with great excitement since it's his first day of senior year. However, during breakfast, his mother Gloria informs him that he'll have to leave his room for a few days because his uncle Jamie will be staying with them. This news irritates Chima, but he reluctantly agrees to his mother's request. Later, while talking with his friends at school, Chima notices a girl named Ellie on whom he has a huge crush. However, his friends start teasing him by claiming that Ellie's practically his cousin because they've known each other since childhood. But Chima brushes off their remarks, clarifying that Ellie's not his cousin and that their families are simply friends. Later in the class, we discovered the chimp is known for being a soft and easygoing person who's easy to persuade. As a result, he is forced by teacher and his classmates to clean up a cat's litter in the middle of class. Afterward, the school director approaches Chima and asks him for another favor, and he reluctantly agrees to help. However, his reluctance quickly transforms into excitement as he finds out that he's supposed to guide Claudia, an attractive new girl who recently moved from another state. Following that, Chima and Claudia introduce themselves to each other, and he gives her tour of the school. When she admits she doesn't have a car, Chima offers to come pick her up every day. However, there's a slight problem. Claudia lives an hour away from school, but despite the distance, she was determined not to lose this chance and assures her that it's not a problem. Upon arriving home, Chima starts pleading with his mother for her car, but she firmly refuses moments after Uncle Jamie arrives at the house and everyone welcomes him with excitement. Since Seamus' father passed away, Jamie's made a promise to visit the family regularly. He presents gifts to everyone and mentions that he arrived here in his truck. Hearing this, Chima comes up with a plan and takes Jamie to his room where he begins to care for him. Shyman then tells them that he wants to date a girl named Claudia and is agreed to pick her up every day, but his mother's refusing to give him her car, realizing the situation he's in. Jamie decides to help them by heading over his truck. The next day, Chima is compelled to get up early in the morning to pick up Claudia. On the way, he encounters various challenges that almost caused him to give up. But when he sees Claudia, he forgets about his worries and even buys her an expensive coffee to impress her. Despite his dislike for the music of Mario Bautista, he endures it because Claudia happens to love it. Fortunately, Claudia makes up for it all with a kiss on the cheek. As they arrive at school, they become the center of attention, with everyone's eyes fixed on them. Later, during class, the teacher reminds the kids to contribute money for the upcoming trip to Cancun. Additionally, the teacher informs the class that there will soon be an orientation session to help them decide on their future careers. Chima informs his friends that he intends to pursue engineering, but they're more interested in hearing about how he met Claudia and why she's with him. Afterward, Ellie approaches Chima, and it appears that she has feelings for him as well. The two then discuss their mutual love of British rock music, and Ellie invites them to hang out this weekend. Chima happily accepts her invitation, but their conversation is interrupted when Claudia arrives and insists that he take her home. In the next scene, Chima takes Claudia to her home, and Claudia seizes the chance to convince him to attend some yoga and pole dancing sessions with her. Without hesitation, Chima agrees, and Claudia thanks him by kissing him on the cheek and calling him baby. As they part ways, Chima remembers his uncle's advice that if a girl turns around while leaving, it's a sign that she likes him. And just as he anticipated, Claudia turns back and smiles, making Chima extremely happy. In the following days, Chima spends his time going from school to Claudia's house, her yoga studios and pole dancing because he spends all of his time with her. Chima forgets about his meeting with Ali, which deeply upsets her. One day, a popular guy named Sebastian, who has a crush on Claudia, asks Chima to come to his party with a gorgeous Claudia. Chima feels excited about being invited to a gathering with popular guys and even invites Hugo and Ruben to join them. Bad evening, Chima and Claudia, accompanied by their friends, arrive at the party. But as soon as they get there, Sebas appears and whisks Claudio away to spend time with her. As Sebastian and Claudia continue to dance and enjoy themselves, Chima can only watch, feeling deeply upset. His friends then mock him for holding on to the belief that he had something special with Claudia. Ruben suggests that Chima should pursue a girl with whom he shares more common interests, like Ellie. However, Chima insists that he also has shared interests with Claudia and refuses to give up hope. Later, Sebas approaches Chima privately to inquire if Claudia has a boyfriend. Chima then lies to Sebas, claiming that Claudia is a lesbian and aren't interested in men. Following that, Chima approaches Claudia, who's already a bit drunk, and she gets thrilled that Sebas will take her home. However, Chima intervenes, and he drives her home instead. Claudia then asks him to stay at her house because her parents aren't there. Later, she starts dancing and tries to initiate a kiss with him. However, due to his fear of intimacy, Chima becomes frozen and misses his opportunity. Shortly after that, Claudia passes out, and Chima ends up sleeping on the floor. The following morning, Claudia complains that Sebas didn't call or text her, which she finds strange since she assumed he liked her. Chima, on the other hand, informs her that she deserves better, and that Sebas is a jerk and a playboy. Hearing this, Claudia hugs them, but Chima pulls back. We're calling his uncle's advice not to let a girl hug him, or he'll be in the friend zone. Later, when Chima returns home, he asks his mother what he should do to impress Claudia. As he discusses his feelings for Seamus, Sister overhears the conversation and remarks that Claudia is merely using them and treating them like a dog to get what she wants. She suggests that Chima should pursue a person like Ellie, with whom he can have a genuine connection. Motivated by his sister's advice, Gemma decides to visit Ali and apologizes for cancelling their previous plans. However, Ellie's still hurt and unwilling to talk to him. Chima then mustered up the courage to ask Ellie if she'd accompany him to the end of the year party, but she informed some that she already has a date. Disappointed, Chima goes to meet Claudia, who's still frustrated that Sebas hasn't called her with sub-bass. No longer in the picture. Claudia ultimately chooses to attend the party with Chima, which makes him happy. Afterward, Claudia is with some of the popular girls when one of them asks if Sebas has asked her yet. But when Claudia reveals that she'll be going with Chima, the girls laugh and say she can't go with such a nerd. The girls explain that they all have a male friend they treat like a dog and who does whatever they want, but they'll never date them. The girls urged Claudia to pursue Sub-S instead, as he is regarded as the most popular and cool guy in school, influenced by their words. Claudia then approaches Sebas after school and invites them to her house. Sometime later, Chima calls Claudia, hoping to take her home as usual, but she doesn't answer, so he decides to go to her place and surprise her. He then enters her room, where he notices Claudia moaning in the bathroom. Thinking this is his chance, he takes off his clothes and decides to join her. However, he soon notices that Sebas is also in the bathroom with her. Terrified by the sight, he jumps out of the window half naked and rushes for his house. When Chima arrives home, Claudia calls them and asks why is closer at her house. She then reveals her plan to attend the party with Sebas and apologizes to Chima for ditching him. Chima pretends not to notice and texts Ruben asking if Ellie's going out with another guy. When he realizes that she hasn't, Chima rushes up to her and apologizes for his actions. He then gives Ellie one more chance and invites her to the party, which Ellie reluctantly accepts. In the following scene, it's the end of the year party and Chima arrives with Ellie. At first, she was a bit upset at St. Claudia and Subbus, but he soon begins to have fun with Eastley later on as Simonelli appear happy together. Claudia begins to feel jealous and asks Chima for a moment alone to talk. And just as Ellie excuses herself and heads to the bathroom, Claudia reveals her jealousy to Chima. Hearing this, Chima admits that it was Claudia who hurt him since he wanted her to be his girlfriend. She then starts laughing and mocking him, unable to believe that Chima thought they could be together. Unfortunately, Ellie overhears the conversation and becomes upset, realizing that she was Chima's second choice. Upon realizing this, Chima desperately tries to justify himself, but Ellie becomes furious with him and decides to leave the party. After this, Chima becomes incredibly drunk and fights with his friends Hugo and Ruben. Somehow he arrives home and his uncle tries to help them out, but Chima turns on him and tells him that the only reason he's staying here is because he wants to sleep with his mother. Chima claims that Uncle Jamie is a dog to his mother, just as he is a dog to Claudia. The following morning, Chima's mother wakes them up and informs them that Uncle Jimmy has left the house to avoid bothering them. At that moment, Chima recalls all the stupid things he said the night before, but neither Jamie nor Lay returns his calls at school. Even his friends Hugo and Ruben refuse to talk to him due to the fight they had. In the following days, Chima tries different approaches to apologize to Ellie and make amends for his actions, but she continues to ignore him soon as graduation approaches. Chima writes a letter to Uncle Jamie apologizing for his misdeeds and asking him to return. He then spends all of his savings on the most expensive vinyl record that Ellie wanted and an autographed poster of her favorite band. This causes Ellie to become emotional and she decides to forgive them, but requests that he return the record because it's too expensive. However, Chima insists that she keep it and that to reconcile with each other. Later, Chima notices the popular girls exploiting other boys like their slaves. Having had enough of this, he goes into the middle of the school ground and announces that this must be stopped. Chima believes that no one is anyone's dog and that these men are worth far more than how they're treated. Chima admits that he was also after the popular girl, like a dog neglecting the person who was truly meant to be by his side, as he encourages his fellow students to stop this trend and have mutual respect. Everyone has moved by his words and begins applauding him. Days later, it's the day of graduation, and everyone's very happy and excited. Later, Claudia approaches Chima and informs them that she's ended a relationship with Sebastian and wants to be with them. Now, however, Chima says that he's already in a relationship with Ellie, but offers Claudia the chance to be best friends. Soon after the graduation ceremony begins, and Chima reconciles with his friends Hugo and Ruben. Moments later, as he receives the diploma, Chima notices Uncle Jamie cheering for him from a distance and becomes happy seeing him. In the final scene, we see Ellie heading to the bathroom on the plane to Cancun, and as she closes the door, Chima is already inside. He informs Ellie that this has always been his fantasy, and with this, the two end up making love to each other like filthy savages.